Hey everyone, and welcome back to your Linux and open source news show. This week we've got more news about the Cosmic desktop. No, it is not dead, even though they haven't received a public update in months now. The beta is actually coming at the end of the month, if System 76 can be believed on dates, which they generally can't. We also have more stuff about SteamOS, a brand new registered trademark from Valve, rumors that the Steam Deck 2 is really far away, but also other manufacturers picking up the slack from Valve. And we also have GNOME deciding that X11 can't really be gotten rid of right now, at least, although they still want to get rid of it later, but just not right now. We also have plenty of Linux and open source related stuff. As usual, all the links that I used are in the description, including a link to our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. It's your all-in-one platform to create, publish, and manage your website. Squarespace has really easy tools to make sure that anyone can end up with a really nice looking and well-optimized website, no matter if you know how to code or not. They have what they call their blueprint system, which lets you pick from a variety of templates that are pre-built and will suit any type of website, whether it's a simple blog, an online store, a video platform, whatever. All these templates are optimized by default to give you good SEO, but they also add some SEO-specific tools on top of that to make sure that your website just doesn't end up on the last page of Google. On top of that, to go further, Squarespace has their own design engine to create your pages. You can just drag and drop elements when you want them. You can change the colors, the fonts. You can just use the templates however you want. And once you have something you like, you can add extra features like your own online shop, payment system. You can design a logo from Squarespace. You can book your own domain name to have an easy to remember address. So check out squarespace.com/the Linux experiment, or just click the link in the description below and you'll get 10% off your first website or domain purchase. Okay, so it's been a minute since we've had any news of Cosmic. The last alpha released months ago, and since then there was basically not a single blog post from System 76 announcing or discussing anything, which was strange because they say the latest alpha was the final alpha, then it would be the beta. That was, I think, in March or April. Fortunately, this week we got two announcements about Cosmic. First, we finally have a release date, at least for the beta version. They want to push it out on the 25th of September, alongside the beta of PopOS 24.04, which will still be based on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. The naming scheme really doesn't work here anymore. This new release of PopOS will probably have a stable version at the end of 2025 or early 2026. So naming it 24.04 makes no sense. They really should change that. Now, the developers have also posted a few elements about their initial setup for the Cosmic desktop, the thing that you'll see the first time you enter a brand new Cosmic session. First, you will get a few accessibility options for scaling, for the text size, for the magnifier, and the screen reader, which apparently is turned on immediately, and you have to turn it off if you don't want it, which is good, because if you need the screen reader, you want it turned on immediately. Next, you have a few visual choices with a few different color schemes being offered, light or dark, and panel customization options as well. You get to pick the virtual desktop layout if you want it vertical or horizontal, and the tiling behavior as well, because of course Cosmic comes with its auto tiling thing. So you want floating windows, do you want tiling, you can pick them. Finally, they tell you about the launcher, which lets you open apps quickly. In my experience, the Cosmic launcher, at least in the alphas, was not as solid as the GNOME Overview or KRunner, but of course they could have improved it quite a lot in the beta. Now, we'll see how it goes. I like Cosmic. I like what they're building. I like the idea behind it. I like the performance that they managed to arrive to. I like the fact that they're building a cohesive thing that is halfway between GNOME and KDE with customization options, but not too many customization options. The thing is, I just cannot trust them on the release dates because they've been saying this thing is coming out soon, and it's been like 3 years. So I wouldn't be surprised if the beta was not released at the end of September, and I also wouldn't be surprised if the final version came like in 2026, March or April, and they had to rebase PopOS on 26.04 from Ubuntu. We'll have to see. If they can stick to the date, then that's fantastic, and obviously you'll get a dedicated video on the Cosmic Beta when it releases. Now, it looks like GNOME is not going to remove the ability to start an X11 session from GDM after, at least not yet. In the release candidate of GNOME 49, they re-enabled the ability to start an X11 session from the login screen. Apparently, they found it more difficult than expected to cleanly separate the code inside of GDM, which seems to mean that basically removing the ability to start an X11 session kind of broke the entire GDM X11 support, not just not being able to start a session, but also if you manage to start a session through any other means, it was fully broken. So it seemed to be either you fully remove X11 support or you have to leave it in. Now, they decided to leave it in for GNOME 49, but the plan is still to get rid of X11 in a future version. Initially, that was planned for GNOME 50, but we don't know if that is still the case. Now, they had said previously that they wanted to give themselves the option to go back on that change if anything happened. And I guess the two options were either you keep X11 support fully until you fully remove it, or you fully remove it for GNOME 49. The thing is, removing it right now would have been way too close to the release date of major distros based on GNOME, like Ubuntu and Fedora, and this would probably not have gone down well. So they decided to leave it in, but do know that they will remove it at some point, and it will be a full removal, no more X11 at all in the future. That is still on the cards. Now let's talk a little bit about SteamOS and Linux-powered gaming devices. First, it looks like the Steam Deck 2 is not going to happen anytime soon, which in my opinion is a big mistake from them. Valve had already been clear about that. They are not planning a successor to the Steam Deck in the near future, although they are very likely working on a successor already. But now a leaker says that this could not come before 2028. Now, of course, it's all leaks and rumors. It is just a big pile of wishful thinking and speculation until it is officially confirmed. But apparently, this person has a very good track record with sharing insider info, basing their information on GPU and CPU insider knowledge and roadmaps, and basically assuming that, hey, if a device had to come out, this is what they would base themselves on. This is what the people working at the company are looking at. And so basically calculating the time that it usually takes between the release of the system on a chip and the time you need to test it and develop a device based on. Now, of course, we don't know if that's true, but if it is, 2028 is way too far in the future for a Steam Deck successor. The Steam Deck already struggles with the latest titles. It just cannot run recent games really well. That's not good. I know it's an indie game machine. No, it's not. It is supposed to be a flagship. It should run the latest AAA titles. That's what it was designed to do from the start. That's how it was marketed from the start. If it cannot do that, it is not able to wait 2.5 more years. That's not how things work in the gaming industry. On top of that, SteamOS and the Steam Deck have two main advantages: performance and a specific controller-friendly UI. Windows is fixing those two problems right now with the Xbox Ally, whatever it's called. If they manage to fix those things, there is literally no reason to buy SteamOS unless you enthusiast, because if you can play all the games, with the same performance and a controller-friendly UI, why would you buy a Steam Deck with similarly priced device that has more titles and a good enough experience? Steam Deck needs a successor fast, whether it comes from a manufacturer, a partner, or from Valve. I don't care, but 2.5 years, if that's the only plan, that's way too long. Now, speaking of partner manufacturers, Lenovo is looking at making more SteamOS hardware. Leaked images of the Lenovo Legion Go 2 seem to indicate that they will offer a version of it running SteamOS, just like the previous Lenovo Legion Go S that released with Windows and Valve's operating system. Critics basically saying, don't even look at the Windows version, it's garbage, just buy the SteamOS one, it's much better. Currently, Lenovo is the only manufacturer outside of Valve that produces SteamOS hardware. I would be surprised if this roster of partners did not grow a bit, but since Microsoft is working on making Windows a much better choice for these handheld gaming computers, maybe in the future, manufacturers will still turn to Microsoft and Windows instead of looking at SteamOS specifically. Now, I'm pretty sure the strategy from Valve was, let's build a reference implementation to show that SteamOS is a viable system, that it can run games, and that people want to actually buy something like this. And then doing the Microsoft, which is, we're just going to give you licenses to the operating system, some amount of support, and you as a manufacturer are going to build that hardware on top of our reference implementation. This is probably what they wanted to do. This is not what is happening, though, because it's taken them so long between the release of the tech and the first partner running SteamOS on their hardware that basically all the momentum from the industry is kind of gone, and Microsoft had enormous time to catch up and will probably do so in the coming months. So hopefully more manufacturers realize that SteamOS is actually something people like and want. But if Windows has caught up with the Xbox Ally and the adapted Windows interface for handhelds, then SteamOS is kind of screwed. Now, finally, still on gaming hardware, Valve registered a new trademark, Steam Frame, registered in the category of computer networking hardware, computer peripherals, and computer software, as well as game consoles and controllers, which could mean two things. Either the Steam console is coming as rumored, a home console that you plug into your TV with a brand new controller, and so basically you'd have the Steam Deck, and under your TV you'd have the Steam Frame. But frame could also refer to glasses, in which case this would be the rumored VR headset from Valve. Honestly, I would be interested in both. If it's a VR headset, that's something I've been looking at for a while, but I don't want to buy the index. Everything else seems really overpriced or really bad, and the PSVR 2 just doesn't have any games. So something official from Valve with all the Steam VR library could be good. And if it's a home console, I'll buy in too, because I've been looking for that as well. I've tried building my own, but honestly, the distros you can use to build a gaming console are just not very good. Now, as planned, Bcache FS is now out of the kernel. It was pretty clear this thing would not stay in the Linux kernel due to the developer being incapable of working with Linux processes and procedures. Some people still thought that this was not definitive, that hadn't made up their mind. At least my YouTube comments were full of people saying it's not decided yet, even though it really clearly was. So now it is confirmed. Bcache FS is marked as externally maintained, meaning yes, current users still get the code for that file system in the kernel. So if they get a kernel update, their systems don't die, but no new code will be making it in anytime soon, and nothing will be merged for the kernel 6.17. Torvald says that as per many long discussion threads, public and private, this is what's happening, implying that there was a lot of conversation around that. Of course, distros can build their kernels with this file system added as a module. It will likely be possible to add support for the latest Bcache FS development with a separate kernel. It just means users or distributions will have to do some amount of manual work. And obviously, this sucks. My gripe is not with Bcache FS. It looks like it's a really fantastic file system with some very good ideas. The problem is the developer really felt that his single file system was more important than the stability and the processes of the entire the biggest open source project in the entire world. So basically, the developer's ego made that project completely unfit for purpose for most users and left all their users by the wayside. It's on the developer, not on the kernel. Now, maybe you missed it, but Linux Mint 22.2 was released this week as well. It's the latest update to the popular distro, still based on Ubuntu 24.0 from LTS or on Debian 13 if you use Linux Mint Debian Edition. But this obviously includes the hardware enablement stack on the main Mint release, meaning you can actually install it on your hardware. It is mostly focused on quality of life. It's not a groundbreaking change. You've got fingerprint authentication supported throughout the whole system. Then you have Finquit, it's enroll fingerprints and use them to complete any pseudo authentication prompt unless it actually requires a timed password, in which case that's what it will ask you. Experimental Wayland support is improved. Still not the default, still not fully ready, but it's coming probably next year. The default theme is now a bit more soft visually, with a bit more blue tints here and there. You get the libadapta library that helps blend the GTK4 libadwaita apps into the system with proper window controls and support for changing the color schemes inside of those apps. I tested it, it works really well on apps installed through repos, but it doesn't work for apps installed from Flatpak. You also get Wayland support for the Sticky Notes app and the Android application that lets you sync these notes to your phone, and you have various applets being throughout the system as well. And you can perform that update from your current version of Mint, your update manager of its edit menu, and obviously the ISOs are available next. I have a dedicated video on it, you might have seen it already. If you haven't, well, it's linked in the description. If you remember that giant antitrust case in the US where the Department of Justice really wanted to break up Google, well, that's not going to happen. Google managed to avoid most crippling penalties in the latest antitrust case. Without them, they were ruled to have an illegal monopoly in internet search, but basically they're not going to have to do anything. They won't have to sell Google, they won't have to sell Android. The judge had said that plaintiffs overreached when asking for that sale, which is insane. And Google can still strike search deals with partners like Firefox or Apple to have Google as the default search engine. The only thing that comes to is strike exclusivity deals that make Google the only search engine in there. But let's be honest, being the default is like being the only search engine in there because people just stick to the default. They don't even you can change it. So if Google is the default, then Google is the only option for most people. Google will also have to share some data that they have on users and some of their search index data that they use to check their search results, but they will not have to share any ad-related data with advertisers or competitors. So basically, they don't have to open or change anything that they were doing. It is a whole lot of nothing happening here, and it is baffling. Most privacy enthusiasts or people that are opposed to the current giant big tech monopoly are absolutely baffled by this. No one really understands what happened and why the judge ruled in that way. But this means that nothing is changing on the internet. Google still has all the power. Actually, Google Chrome's market share even rose again in recent months. So, yeah, it's getting bigger, and nothing is being done to change it, at least in the US. Google got a gigantic fine in the EU, but they don't care. Those fines just don't amount to anything for them. It's just super disappointing. I don't understand how anyone could conclude that, yes, there's an illegal search monopoly, but there's nothing Google has to do to change that. It's insane. Now, Katie is finally going to get what people have been asking for ever since the first permission prompt appeared on a sandbox application, which is Flatpak permissions in the settings that aren't like super technical with 10,000 fields that no one really understands. The UI was really convoluted around those permissions inside of KDE, really not suited to regular users, and the most useful permissions were just lost in a sea of various fields that no one really figured out unless they really knew what they were doing. In Plasma 6.5, you will instead get a much nicer view for each application with the simple basic permissions like notifications, blocking sleep and screen locking, game mode, higher priority being up top. And then you get a few drop-down menus for the ability to take screenshots, to access the camera, to access location, or to send the desktop back. We also have screen sharing and control the computer and keyboard remotely in there. Each drop down has a few options. You can allow that, you can deny it, you can say to always ask if you want to run the app permission or not, or you can say ask for once and then the permission is granted or denied and don't ask ever. Of course, this is only for sandbox applications. Obviously, Flatpaks, non-sandbox ones, you will still get a few permissions. I would assume notifications, sleep and screen locking, game mode and higher priority will be there. But of course, everything else is just unsupported. And these limited permissions as well will be weighted only. So X11 can't but an app does. It has all the permissions all the time. You still get the permissions for sandbox apps on X11 though, as long as they use the to access stuff. Now it felt extremely obvious to have that kind of system, like smartphones have had that for like 10 years, and this should have been a thing on Linux as well ever since that Mac started mainstream. It's good to have it. I hope all the desktop environments start implementing that instead of relying on something like Flat Seal, which yes is very powerful, but also exposes way too many things for most people. You don't need to see all of that by default. You just need the basics like, hey, I want my app to access my location, yes or no. That's it. You don't really need the entire export variables list that will probably not ever be used by anyone in most cases. Now let's conclude on a fun little thing. Microsoft open sourced their 50-year-old 6502 BASIC, the thing that ran their first computers dating back to 1976. This was developed by Bill Gates and it's the first time it's been officially open. You could find copies of it online. They were either emails, reports, official sort of illegal distribution. This code is under the MIT license, so it's free software. And if you're wondering what exactly the use case for the 50-year-old BASIC is, it's mostly to preserve that part of history. Enthusiasts that big meetings need to ultimately emulate. Obviously, we say, hey, Microsoft, it's all stuff, it's not that kind of stuff that we're talking about, but it's still kind of fun. It's a part of computing history. It is one of the earliest systems running on computers of the computer nature. So I think it's cool. Now, of course, this code was written by Bill Gates, so expect it to be full of 5G nano machines or vaccine mandates or whatever else Bill Gates is up to these days, according to some parts of the internet. Now, what Bill Gates should be up to is buying a Tuxedo computer because it's just much better than a Windows one. Now, if you've been listening or watching anything I make or I've made for the past 3 years, you know about Tuxedo computers. They're laptops and desktops that they're based in Germany, they ship to most countries in the world, and have a pretty big range of devices that should cover every need and every price point. Changing all of the internals of the device, choosing the one, having your logo engraved on the lid of the laptop, and I only use Tuxedo devices these days. Everything you see is created.
in Australia. Thank you. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. $6, dude. Is it worth it? It worth it. God. $6 for a Sunday. Penalty rates, fuck that shit. For people, for poor people, penalty rates, who give a fuck? Let's pay. Let's get paid. $6.
A new cyber alarm from an old cyber
country gets anywhere close to the People's Republic of China in terms of the cyber threat to Australia, and that needs to remain the focus of our efforts for now.
Australia is muscling up its cyber capability, spending billions to defend us, but to attack as well. Now the agency with that new capacity confronts a troubling new cyber threat. As Australians worry, the more connected we become, the more divided we seem. The issue, are we winning the cyber wars?
They already lost. When it started, we already lost. Zero experience. Team of retards with a suit. A suit is not gonna save you, you retards. Neither I am.
Your attention, for example, is mediated by unconscious forces. And you know that. You know that perfectly well. This is another observation. You know, if you're sitting down to study, for example, your conscious intent is to study. But you know perfectly well that all sorts of distraction fantasies are going to enter the theater of your imagination non-stop and annoyingly. And there isn't really a lot you can do about that except maybe wait it out. You know, so you'll be sitting there reading and your attention will flicker away. You think about I don't know, maybe you want to watch Jane the Virgin on Netflix or something like that. Or maybe it's time to have a peanut butter sandwich, or you should get the dust bunnies out from underneath the bed, or it's time to go outside and have a cigarette, or maybe it's time for a cup of coffee, or it's like all of these subsystems in you that would like something aren't very happy just to sit there while you read this thing that you're actually bored by. And so they pop up and try to take control of your perceptions and your actions nonstop. Maybe you think, well, this is a stupid course anyways. Why do I have to read this damn paper? And what am I doing in university? And what's the point of life? It's like you can really get going if you're trying to avoid doing your homework. And then you might think, well, what is it in you that's trying to avoid? Because after all, you took the damn course and you told yourself to sit down. Why don't you listen? Well, because you're a mess. That's basically why. You haven't got control over yourself at all. Yeah, no more than I have control over this laptop. Okay, so there's the memory function of the unconscious, and there's the dissolutive function. That's an interesting one. The unconscious contains habits, once voluntary, now automatized, dissociated elements of the personality, which may lead a parasitic existence. That's an interesting one. I would relate that more to procedural memory. So what you've done is practice certain habits, whatever they might be. Let's call them bad habits. And you like those things to get under control, but you can't. So maybe when you're speaking, for example, you use like and and you say a lot. And you practice that, so you're really good at it. And you'd like to stop it, but you don't get to, because you've built that little machine right into your being, right? It's neurologically wired, and it's not under conscious control. And anything you practice becomes that. It becomes part of you, and that's another element of the unconscious, a different part. And then there's a creative part, which is that, well, you're sitting around and maybe you're trying to write something, or maybe you want to produce a piece of art or a piece of music, or maybe you're just laying in bed dreaming and you have all these weird ideas, and especially in dreams, it's like, where do those things come from? And even more strange, one of the things that's really weird about dreams, and almost impossibly weird, is that you're an observer in the dream. It's like a dream is something that happens to you. Well, you're dreaming it, theoretically. So how is it that you can be an observer? It's almost like you're watching a video game or a movie, but you're producing it, at least in principle. Although the psychoanalysts would say, well, no, not exactly. Your ego is producing it. Your unconscious is producing it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. And of course, Jung would say, well, it's deeper than that. The collective unconscious might be producing it. It's in some sense, it isn't you exactly, or it isn't the you that you think of when you think of you. And that's the ego from the Freudian perspective. The you that you identify with, that's the ego. And outside of that is the unconscious, the id. That's more the place of impulses. And you could think about those as the biological subsystems that can derail your thinking, right? And that govern things like hunger and sex and aggression. And your basic instincts is another way of putting it. And it's a reasonable way of thinking about it, because these are subsystems that you share with animals. You share them certainly with mammals. You share most of them with reptiles. You share a lot of them with amphibians, and even going all the way down to crustaceans. There's commonality, for example, in the dominance hierarchy circuits. So these are very, very old things. And the idea that you're in control of them is, well, you're not exactly in control of them. And I would say the less integrated you are, the less you're in control of them, and the more they're in control of you. And that can get really out of hand. You can be like with people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, for example, which seems to be, I would say, the dissolutive elements in some sense of the unconscious, the way that it's portrayed here. Poor people with obsessive compulsive disorder, they can spend half their time doing things that they can't really control, and they have very strong impulses to do them. And it's very hard on them to block them. They'll almost panic if those things are blocked. And then you have people with Tourette's syndrome, that they'll be doing all sorts of weird dances and spouting off obscenities and imitating people without being able to control it. And sometimes a little bit of antipsychotic medication can dampen that down, but it's as if there are these autonomous semi-spirits inside of them that grip control over the behavior and make them do things. You find that to some degree in your own life, because maybe you've become very attracted to someone, even maybe you don't want to be attracted to the person, and then you find yourself, texting them when you know perfectly well that you should be going to bed, you're in a grip of something and you can't control it. And that's all part of the unconscious and all part of what Freud was studying. This is the Peter Pan story, roughly speaking. Peter Pan is this magical boy. Pan is the god of everything, roughly speaking, right? So it's not an accident that he has the name Pan. And he's the boy that won't grow up. And he's magical. Well, that's because children are magical. They can be anything. They're nothing but potential. And Peter Pan doesn't want to give that up. Why? Well, he's got some adults around him, but the main adult is Captain Hook. Well, who the hell wants to grow up to be Captain Hook? First of all, you've got a hook. Second, you're a tyrant. And third, you're chased by the dragon of chaos with a clock in its stomach, right? The crocodile. It's already got a piece of you. Well, that's what happens when you get older. Time has already got a piece of you. And eventually, it's got a taste for you. And eventually, it's going to eat you. And so Hook is so traumatized by that he can't help but be a tyrant. And then Peter Pan looks at traumatized Hook and says, well, no, I'm not sacrificing my childhood for that. So that's fine, except he ends up king of the Lost Boys. In Neverland, well, Neverland doesn't exist, and who the hell wants to be king of the Lost Boys? And he also sacrifices the possibility that he'll have a real relationship with a woman, because that's Wendy, right? And she's kind of conservative, middle-class, London-dwelling girl. She wants to grow up and have kids and have a life. She accepts her mortality. She accepts her maturity. Peter Pan has to content himself with Tinkerbell. She doesn't even exist. She's like the fairy of porn. She doesn't exist. She's the substitute for the real thing. But the dichotomy that you're talking about is very tricky because there's a sacrificial element in maturation, right? You have to sacrifice the pluripotentiality of childhood for the actuality of a frame. And the question is, well, why would you do that? Well, one reason is it happens to you whether you do it or not. You can either choose your damn limitation, or you can let it take you unaware when you're 30, or even worse, when you're 40. And then that is not a happy day. I see people like this, and I think it's more and more common in our culture because people could put off maturity without suffering an immediate penalty. But all that happens is the penalty accrues. And then when it finally hits, it just wallops you, because when you're 25, you could be an idiot. It's no problem. Even when you're out in a job search, it's like, well, you don't have any experience, you're kind of clueless. It's you're young, it's no problem. That's what young people are like, but they're full of potential. Okay, well, now you're the same person at 30. It's like people aren't so thrilled about you at that point. It's like, what the hell have you been doing for the last 10 years? Well, I'm just as clueless as I was when I was 22. Yeah, but you're not 22. You're an old infant, right? And that's an ugly thing, an old infant. So part of the reason you choose your damn sacrifice, because the sacrifice is inevitable, but at least you get to choose it. And then there's something that's even more complex than that in some sense, is that the problem with being a child is that all you are is potential, and it's really low resolution. You could be anything, but you're not anything. So then you go and you adopt an apprenticeship, roughly speaking, and then you become something. And when you're something, that makes the world open up to you. Like if you're a really good plumber, then you end up being far more than a plumber, right? You end up being a good employer. Not that plumbers. I'm not putting plumbers down. It's like more power to plumbers. They've saved more lives than doctors. So hygiene. So if you're a really good plumber, then you have some employees who run a business. You train some other people. You enlarge their lives. You're kind of a pillar of the community. You have your family. You can, once you pass through that narrow training, which narrows you, constricts you, and develops you at the same time, then you can get rid with a bunch of new possibilities. Hell, that happened. And you talk about part of half of development in the last half of life is to rediscover the child that you left behind as you were apprenticing. And so then you get to be something and regain that potential at the same time. Very, very smart. Well, he was very, very smart. That's very wise. Very wise thing to do. So, yeah. Sacrifice. get to pick your outside of this. That's all. You don't get to nominate. You're sacrificial. That's a good thing to know as well. So even though it's better, it's a rough thing to figure out. But other questions? Okay.
That you just said about noticing it.
Yeah. I think universities facilitate, because you can go to university to not be something instead of going to university to be something, and it's pleasure island. And the price you pay for it, especially in the US, is debt, and you're enticed into it because the administrators can pick you up. So they rob your future self while allowing you to pretend that you have an identity. Right? It's very nasty. And you can't declare bankruptcy with your student loans in the US. It's indentured servitude. And it is precisely it's exactly that. And so tuition fees have shot way up. And part of the reason that universities don't make more demands on their students and let them get away with all the things they let them get away with is because they're basically, why the hell would you chase them out? They're $100,000 or more. So they can do whatever they want as long as you get to sell them to the salt mines. Right? So, and it's not the only reason, because the other thing that's happening is the rate of technological transformation is so fast, the rate of turnover of things is that it is genuinely harder for, say, 18 to 20. The kind of rough patch for life is probably 14 to 17, something like that. Now I think it's 18 to 25, something like that. And I think the reason for that is that all the jobs that the bloody hippies complained about being doomed to in the 1960s have now disappeared. Their problem was, oh my God, I'm going to have to work for a corporation and get a salary for the rest of my life. And then I'll just end up in it with a pension, and that'll be my whole life. It's like, well, it seems like a lot better deal than an endless round of part-time Starbucks jobs. So, something is that. It's just there's a space now in our culture that is lacking for people to make that transformation from adolescence into adulthood. So it's the cost of that is forestalled. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Now, you've got these two evil creatures here, fox and cat. I think this one's based on one of the Marx brothers, actually. He never said anything, but be that as it may, there are these narrative belt characters. Fox, in particular, Fox is a standard trickster animal. It's a classic animal, maybe because it's good at hiding, it's good at hunting. I don't know exactly what. And coyotes are like that too. They're classic trickster animals. He's kind of like Wile E. Coyote, in fact. The Warner Brothers character who's genius at large, of course, whose arrogance continually gets him walloped. And this character has a lot of features like that, but he feigns being an English gentleman of like the 1890s, pretends to be educated and has that kind of high blown way of talking. He's a fraud through. He's got this sidekick who's barely there at all, and he doesn't treat him that well, but he's got someone to lord it over, so that keeps his dominance hard thing going well. But the fact that he's like a second-rate companion, well, he never really notices that, although he treats him contemptuously and never gives a chance. So anyways, they're walking down the street, and the fox is bragging away about some crooked thing that he's done, how he pulled it over someone's eyes. And he confuses that with wisdom and intelligence. And one of the things that you see, this is worth knowing too, because if you're preyed upon by a psychopath, which you will be to some degree at some point in your life, the psychopath who will be narcissistic will presume that you're stupid and that you deserve to be taken advantage of because you're naive and stupid. So it's actually a good thing. And he is proof, and I'm saying he because there are more real psychopaths. He proof that you're stupid naive is that he can take advantage of it. So, like, if you were wise, you know his tricks, and then it would be morally necessary for him to show you just exactly who knows what about what. And so the psychopath will use his ability to fool you as proof of his own grandiose omnipotence, omniscience, and narcissism. And the problem with that is that you can be fooled by a psychopath, and virtually anybody can. So that Robert Hare, for example, studied psychopaths for a long time and interviewed a lot of them, like hundreds of them, and videotaped many of the interviews. He said when he was talking to the psychopath, he always believed what they were saying. And then he'd watch the video afterwards and see where the conversation went off the rails. But, you know, the proclivity to be polite in a conversation is very strong. And if you're polite, you don't object to the way that the person unfolds their strategy. And psychopaths are pretty good at figuring out how to manipulate the probability that you will be immune to that is extraordinary. We'll watch Paul Bernard being by policemen on YouTube. That's bloody. That's enlightening. Paul Bernard is like the CEO of a meeting. He gives the cops hell, he gives lawyers hell, he tests his innocence. He basically tells them that they're untrustworthy because they don't trust him, because he did a few little things 17 years ago. And he gets away with it. Little things. Killed a bunch of people, his sister, his girlfriend at the time. It's a repeat sexual offender. So he basically thinks, well, you know, that's a long time ago. It's like, past that, aren't we? I mean, I'm having a discussion with you. I'm trying to help you solve some crimes. I'll bring that up. You know, when you're accusing me of being a liar. What's up with you? And then when they answer, he looks at his fingernails, which is like, that's a lovely thing, because it basically means whatever happens to be under my fingernail or tolerance is much higher priority than listening to your foolish story. And you watch, you see people do that, and you live inside to what they're up to. He's very good at that. And so the more he looks outside, or just looks at his hands, or looks out the window, immediately dismissing his nonverbal behavior. It's brilliant. The courts were forced to release them. But you get up over wow. It's just mind-blowing. He's so good at what he does. And he's good looking and he's charismatic. You know, he can really pull it off. And you can't tell what's happening with cops and lawyers, whether they're just letting him play his routine to get some information from him, or whether he's actually setting them back on his heels. And I suspect it's a bit of both. But it's a masterful performance. If you didn't know who he was, and you were watching him without the audience, he's the CEO of some company giving us up to scratch. That's all his body language. His eye contact, everything speaks about it. It's amazing. He's a crazy psychologist. He used to put jokes in his multiple choice tests. He was a really eccentric guy. I really liked his courses. He taught me creativity, and he was also a prison psychologist. And he was an eccentric guy. And he, for some reason, liked me, because I was eccentric too. He invited me to go to the maximum security prison, which I did. And that was a very interesting experience because each individual pathology or something like that. And we went out there. And that was a real guy. It's one of the names. And he was a pretty innocuous guy. And what happened was I was on this gymnasium. It's like a high school prison, which is quite telling estimation. And there were all these like monsters in there. Like they were monsters. I remember one that was tattooed everywhere, like a huge scar right down his chest. It looked like something hit him with an axe. You know, and I was in there and I had this weird cape that I used to wear when I bought in Portugal, some boots that went along with it. And yeah, it was like an 1890s Sherlock Holmes cape. And it was really like, it was from the 1890s because this little village was up on a hill. It was a walled city on a hill, and they sold these things. I don't think they changed the style since 1890. And so I thought they were really cool. And so I was wearing that, which wasn't perhaps the most conservative garb to don if you're going to go to the maximum security prison. So anyways, I was in the gymnasium And the psychologist laughed. And God only knows. I mean, that's what he was like. And all these guys came around me, and they were offering to trade their prison clothes for my cape. And was it was like I was being made an offer I couldn't refuse, and so I didn't really know what to do. And then this little guy said something like the psychologist sent me to come and take you away or something like that. And so I thought, well, better this little guy than all these monsters. So we went outside the gym through some doors, like school doors. We went outside the gym into the exercise yard, I guess. And we were wandering along, and he was talking to me. It seemed like a kind of innocuous guy. Then the psychologist showed up at the door and motioned us back. So, which was kind of a relief. So we went into his office. He said, that guy that you walked out in the yard with? I said, he took two cops. He had them wheeled down while they were begging for their lives. He shot them in the back of the head. I thought, see, the thing that was so interesting was that he was so innocuous. Right? Because what you'd hope is that someone like that would be very much unlike you, let's say, and certainly wouldn't be like someone innocuous that you met when you want this. The guy would be like half vampire, so you could just tell right away that he was a cold-blooded killer. No, he was this sort of ineffectual little guy. He was certainly not ineffectual if you gave him a revolver in the upper hand. And so that made me think. That made me think a lot about the relationship between being innocuous and being dangerous. And then another thing happened. I met another guy out there. And then a week or two later, I heard that he and a friend of his held another guy down and pulverized his left leg with a lead pipe, like just pulverized him. And the reason for that was that they thought that he was a snitch, and maybe he was. And that time I did something different. Instead of being shocked and horrified by that, although I certainly was, I thought, how in the world could you do that? Because I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think that. I thought that there was a qualitative distinction between me and those people. And so I spent about 2 weeks trying to see if I could figure out under what conditions I could do that. Like what kind of psychological transformation I would have to undergo to be able to do that. And so that was a meditative exercise, let's say. And it only took about 10 days for me to realize that not only could I do that, that it would be a hell of a lot easier than I thought it would be. And that's sort of where that wall between me and what you described as the shadow started to fall apart. And that also was very useful because I started to treat myself as a somewhat different entity because I had been aware up to that point, because I thought I was a good guy. And there's no reason for me to think that because you're not a good guy unless you've really made a bloody effort to be a good guy. You're just not. It's not easy. So you're probably a moderately bad guy. And that's a long ways from being an absolutely horrible guy, but it's also a long ways from being a good guy. And so, but I had a little more respect for myself after that because I also understood that there was a monstrous element to the human psyche that you needed to respect. And that was part of you, that you should regard yourself in some sense as a loaded weapon. It's very useful around children to regard yourself as a loaded weapon because around children you are a loaded weapon. And the terrible experiences that many children have with their parents are testament to that. I'm get started in helping you to understand what's in between. Most people that you know are stubborn in pursuing the path that
they have chosen. I'm going to learn behavior instead of the goal of getting good at it. I don't want you on a path. I want you in pursuit of a goal. Path versus goal is a big difference. If I had a one-page script to get a free coffee at Starbucks, get upgraded to first class on an airplane, maybe have the Uber driver comp your entire ride just because you can persuade that person. What if I have all the linguistics nailed down? Everything perfect. The exact words to say, how to move your hands when you're talking. Everything on one page, one sheet of paper. Everybody would want that, right? Everybody would want that sheet. Here is a flight checklist for a Boeing 737. Who's a pilot now? This is it. Somebody worked for 25 years to come up with this series of best practices to take off an aircraft. You can take this and go do it. None of us would feel confident, right?
Here we are, brother.
Or your family is in the plane. But we have all the steps. We've got all the steps right here. None of us are lacking the script. I want you to think about the difference between someone else can take this and take that plane off. This is the same steps they're going to follow. Do you agree? What's the difference? Skill, experience, and mostly distance on the surface. The difference is that. The difference is when it says turn on APU, auxiliary power unit. They understand what that does. They understand what it means. They understand what to do if it fails. They understand what to do if the light is red or orange. And that's depth. And it feels cool to be in possession of that script. But it doesn't really give us much substance. But let's say that I had the perfect script on how to get upgraded to first class. And now I take that perfect script, the exact words, how to move your hands, where to move your eyes, when to lean, and I give it to a person with severe social anxiety. And they go deliver it. Are they going to be successful? No. So what makes the difference? Depth. The depth of understanding of human behavior is what makes the difference. If I give that script to somebody with like unstoppable social confidence, are they going to be more successful? Yeah. So we have our goals set up here, but I want to talk about something that is a little controversial, and I want to tell you about the brain in a way that I don't think you've ever heard it before. Your brain is going to default to thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The moment the pyramid comes up, I even copied the colors from the average psychology textbook and average online thing just to make your brain default to thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I also know that all of us have seen that pyramid before. And now I know if you've seen something before, I can borrow from your memory. And what am I mostly borrowing? Authority. I'm borrowing authority from someone. This is the hierarchy of our brain. The most important part is down towards the bottom, just about above our belly button, all the way through the back, right? Our spinal cord. That part of our brain is really important. That part of our brain is our default mode. It's going to take over if you're doing something stupid and either knock you out or make you breathe. Who's ever held a baby, like a 5-6 week old baby before? You ever held it over like a coffee table or like a kitchen counter? You see the baby's legs kind of do this little walking motion, and the parents are like, "Oh, look, he's already learning how to walk. He's already. This is amazing. He's so smart. He's so intelligent. You know, he's trying to walk." No, the baby's not trying to walk at all. That's a spinal cord reaction to seeing a level surface because our ancestors walked. That baby is not processing anything in its brain about walking. Our ancestors, if something helped save their life or something helped keep our ancestors alive, the more it saved our ancestors, the closer to the spinal cord it got. So our memories are stored and passed down by our ancestors to our spinal cord and our mammalian brain. This is the reason we can't hold our breath. Like when we protest with our parents, I'm just going to hold my breath. My kids did that to me. I said, go ahead. I dare you. So if we think in terms of this, of where the brain stem is the most important thing, according to this chart, the prefrontal cortex is the least important.
And what does all persuasion, all behavior, all influence training, even if you have a PhD in psychology, what they teach you in school is only the top. If you went to a really good school, they might teach you how to get to the little blue part. The closer we get to the base of this pyramid, the more effective we are as communicators, as influencers, persuasion experts, behavior experts, fill in the blank. The closer you get to the base of this pyramid, the better you are at influencing a human being. So let's just transfer this into a hierarchy of influence. If I'm looking at the top of this pyramid, I'm going to change a person's thoughts. I have a sales script. I go to a copywriting course. The phone so they can hear, because they can hear the smile. That doesn't matter. I'm getting them to borrow from a script of friends and family. I'm good. So what can I do in my position to force that person's brain to say, this is just like that? If I want somebody to be hyper responsive to authority, what might I do? Let's say I am a hypnotherapist or a salesperson and someone walks in. I have the exact same clipboards that doctors' offices use. I have the same pens that doctors' offices use. I pour a little bit of betadine or something like that into the air purifier so the whole place smells kind of like a doctor's office. That person's brain is like, this smells like, this looks like, this feels like a doctor's office. And then the salesperson comes out, maybe in a white shirt that looks kind of like a white lab coat. So now our brain is hyper responsive to authority because we respond to doctors that way. All of our brain can be teased into borrowing scripts. So if I can predict human behavior by forcing a script, what else can I do? I can get them to borrow a script, but I can also break that person's script. So what happens? Remember what we're talking about, we're driving along the road, something happens, like a fire truck, something like that happens, we hear that horn in our ear and it automatically says, I need to pay more attention. So we go from script to absolute focus in 1 second or less. The moment something happens that we didn't predict in our script, the app, the thing that's running the app says, I'm going back to the home screen. The app stops working and we're 100% focused. So I know now if I can do something that breaks a person's script, I'm manufacturing focus. The fastest way to manufacture focus is novelty. The moment something is new, something is different, it's automatically generating focus. Our currency, the currency that we are working with, is that person's focus. So if I was to sum up all persuasion in one sentence, it is your ability to capture and lead human focus. That's it. What about level 4? If you'll notice, these two can kind of lay on top of each other. The more effective we are at influence, the further we're getting to the spinal cord, closer we're getting to the spinal cord. We're creating impulse in human beings. And just 2 days ago, I texted this to my dad. I saw an infomercial when I was 14, give or take. And it was the only time I'd ever taken my parents' credit card. And to God, I only did it once. And it was at 2 a.m., give or take. And I'm sitting there watching an infomercial for this thing on TV called the Banjo Minnow. It was a fishing lure. But why did that manufacture some kind of impulse in me? What was the first thing that infomercial had to do so I didn't change the channel? First thing you had to do, because my thumb was on the button, capture focus. And then I looked at it for a minute. I see this guy dragging lures. These people are pulling all the fish. So now what's it doing? Leading focus. So then it's showing people pulling these fish out one after another. It's talking about, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be pulling these fish out, and all of my friends are going to see that I'm catching more than them ever. And how does that make me feel? Really cool. Awesome. Feels good. Now we're at a chemical level. So I keep watching this and I'm thinking like, I can do that. I can do that. And they say it's easy. You can absolutely do this. Anybody can do it. Now there's a 4-year-old using the lure and I get to see this. I'm like, okay, I can see myself doing it. Then now it's behavioral. Then we get to the end of the infomercial and it says 1995, whatever it was. There's an 800 number there. But guess what they had on the screen? There was a countdown timer. It was a 2-for-1 countdown timer. So now resources, if you go back a million years to our ancestors, resources become scarce. We take action more readily. I ran to my parents' bedroom. I pulled my dad's credit card out and called the number. I was just talking to him about it 2 days ago, but I've never mentioned it for 20 years. I told him he could invoice me for it, but he said it's all right. But this entire process can take 3 seconds. From top to bottom, you can do this in 3 seconds or less. I'm going to show you how to trigger all of this stuff in a cascade very quickly today.
Cascade. Makes sense. Let's learn.
Human souls came before PlayStation exclusive. Yes, ma'am. Holy shit, I had no idea. Game fucking hard. Yeah, dude. Well, I jumped into the franchise 3, and that first boss fight, just the first one,
almost broke me. It took me like an hour and a half. And the person I was with at the time, a very experienced gamer on our PC, because we set up right next to each other. So he got like front row seats to me crashing out. He's like, you've got to kite. Just keep kiting. Kite, snap, kite, snap. I'm like, oh my god. Oh, sorry, I feel like I should check my stuff. And how are you, Squeak? How are you? Good. You know, pointed like that, you could. I've got a song in my head. I'm not seeing it. It's the Buzzcocks. Wow. Yeah. Why can't I touch it? Really? Something. I won't even touch it. Then instantly in my head, I'm like, and it feels so real. I can taste it. And it feels so good. Cannot touch it. That's in my head now. Great song. So I guess thanks. No. Thank you. Sorry. We needed that. We did need that. TFS 420, damn near every day in NOLA. God damn it! We had this, Greg. M Space, 24/7, never sleeps, up all night. Sponsored by the time. Are you speaking in metaphoric terms, or? I knew you were going to get it. Yeah, set that one up. Yeah, I would do that. My app crashed again from the space. I did fall asleep. You're like the most patient person in the world. So when I first came to this space earlier, some woman came on and she chewed Hishleb out because she wasn't getting her way, and it was hilarious because she was just shitting all over him in the space. And I sent a private DM to Hitchlab a little while ago. I said, compare that woman to Nico, who just sits here forever and is so patient. So just, you have the floor. First of all, how are you? Tell me how you are. I'm doing pretty good. Now, when you say that I'm patient, that is context, people. Because it was not patient with her. I was kind of patient with her. If you look at our exchange on the text that Hitch put up on the Jumbotron earlier, I did devolve to being unnecessarily mean to her, but I did warn her as well. That is called righteous indignation. Yeah, I'm full of it. But yeah, I'm having quite a good day. I'm just getting a little bit of gaming in. I had quite a hangover earlier, but my impromptu nap. Wait a second. Hold on. You had a hangover. So from what? Pickle shots, vodka, and my God. I actually drank a bunch of non-alcoholic beers last night. I woke up with a hangover. But let me ask you this.
Please arrive at the meeting point before 7:03 a.m.
Uncle Alan saw that. Hey, at least it's mine. Okay, so you said pickle shots. So vodka and the day job. So you said pickle shots. So vodka and what? And brine from pickles, specifically. Oh man, what the hell are you doing? Oh, they're delicious. Oh, okay. How many did you have? 4. And in what setting? At home with my roommate. Just kind of celebrating a Friday. As well as don't you think it's funny when you watch television, the movies, and they're constantly drinking big glasses of booze, and they're just like madmen or whatever? Sad men is what I used to call it. Like, how are these people dumping all this liquor down their throat and they're fine when you and I will have 3 or 4 drinks and we'll feel it. Oh yeah, I mean, I used to party pretty hard when I was younger, so I'm old and a lightweight now. That was a lot of alcohol free last night. But isn't everything you've ever done, didn't everything you've ever done happen when you were younger? That is an excellent point. So what do you think about the question, my friend, of not narcissism, but what was the other one? Oh yes, the man flu. So I contend, as a married man, that the man flu is just something that happens because we have very sweet women around us that call to us, and then we sort of milk that. But some people might think it's evolutionary. Some people might think that women just handle the flu better than men. What do you think about that? I think a couple different things. Like, I'm single, so I'll give you the single perspective on it because I can say anecdotally, I get man flu every now and then. But it's because I have a really hard work ethic. Like, for instance, last week, I worked until I had basically worn through my work boots, and the cloth on the back of the boot tongue had separated from the tongue, and it created a bunch of extra friction that basically wore a hole in the top of my foot. And I walked around for pretty much the entire week just through pain and a bloody sock. And when it came to Friday, like, my bosses basically said, "Hey, we're taking some jobs out of your route, and you're going to nurse your foot because watching you limp on the cameras." So I think it's more because there is an evolutionary aspect to it. I think that's an excellent point because evolutionarily wise, men can afford to get way more sick. Like, we're just more expensive. Whereas it makes less evolutionary sense for women to get more sick. And then it goes into the whole testosterone thing as well. But yeah, well, because when women had kids, right, even, in caveman days, they had to just keep going with the kids. Otherwise, the kids died. So, yeah. Yeah, they're, like, exposed to a lot of it. Children have a lot weaker immune systems. So maybe there's something with that. Maybe there's something with women being mothers. It gives them a more robust immune system so they don't get as sick. And then you put on top of that the whole testosterone thing where we react to getting sicker and we can't really afford to actually get sick because we kind of have to keep society going. Okay, well, what about the narcissism question? Can you recognize narcissistic tendencies or personalities? Have you been confronted with them? And then what is your strategy for dealing with them? I don't know if I've actually ever been confronted with a true narcissist, like someone with empathy. I can think of a pretty good example with some pretty heavy narcissistic tendencies. But I wouldn't call her a narcissist. I'd call her just a pathological liar. There was one point I wanted to make on it. I can't remember who was saying it, but they were talking about if you'd want to be a doctor to be a narcissist. And that's actually when I woke up from my nap and hopped back on the speakers. I wanted to push back on that right away because it feels like really bad false equivalency. Like, I don't want a brain surgeon who's a narcissist. I want a brain surgeon who's like as comparable in ability who's not a narcissist, because I can't think of any example where you can think of two people in any profession.
About to arrive at the destination, please choose a safe place to park.
Yeah, I thought she was conflating just an egoist with a narcissist, because I actually grew up kind of knowing surgeons and things, and a lot of people around the medical field, and that personality type has a really big ego, and they're absolutely sure of themselves and they're tough, but they're not. I don't describe that narcissistic. Gary and I, we're talking about the qualities of a narcissistic person. These are ignoble qualities, and it's very obsessive. There's a real obsession with what everybody thinks of me, and in an emotional sort of way. Whereas the surgeon is like, I'm good, I'm awesome, I am great, I can get the shit done. Now, I will tell you, I would not want a surgeon whimpering over whether I
live or die. I'd rather than to be a bit of a cold-hearted
Morning.
son of a bitch, if you don't mind me saying, and just really just
How are you?
Now approaching Sydney Airport.
Terminal 2 domestic.
Make sure to buckle up.
Yeah, I don't think it's Darcy. I thought there was kind of a humorous point where she was talking to, where she was saying, like, maybe I can't differentiate between egoists and narcissists. They're one and the same to me. My thought is like they're not one and the same. That's why we actually have different words. I always use that. I always tell people that when they. And this thing happened at the same time on this side of town. You think that's why we have the word. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that word. You know, my brother and I both heard our name at the same time. Is that a coincidence? Yeah, that's why we have the word. Otherwise, we have absolutely my friend. So, as far as the pathological liar, though, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I have met this now. None of us have talked about this, but we all met this person. Come on, every single one of them. Mess up. You have met the person who just lies all the time. I mean, I even had a friend when I was a kid. I mean, it was just so obvious. You know, Norm MacDonald makes a joke about lying for no reason. He said, "You ever lie for no reason?" He said, "Someone goes, see that movie?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he stops and goes, "Wait a second. Why is this why? I stand nothing to gain from this lie." Well, I will admit that person just seems to profit from his life. So very cultural syndrome. I think that's the kind of narcissism or something that I'm very sure. Jared may be painting, but yeah, like not I wanted your opinion on that too, Nico. I think that that is a kind of narcissistic personality. What is the experience you had where someone lied to you? Is this an adult experience? Yeah, it was an adult experience. I read Dungeons and Dragons most men friends for like 7 years. Then one of our friends' wife, and the first question, March of and he was you think maybe it was because you had cast a spell to break that sort of because you said you tried to get that vortex intentional crime, but it wasn't so bad where it wasn't bad. Maybe she would just get out. I don't think it's an S&M dungeon. I think I just have one last funny comment. Gary's here. Like every time he speaks, I expect it to turn into Nick Mark. He's got remarkably like that. Gary does that very quickly. Let's go. All right. Gary does it every time. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Nick, sorry, I was correct earlier. So thank you, Nico. Appreciate your friend. Let's go to Lee. Please jump in. Thank you for your patience.
Hey guys, hey, thank you. First of all, I just want to say I apologize. I was referring to a podcast and I'm somebody an expert in psychology and stuff. My background engineering. But what the podcast was referring to was how they are. They said that one to inside narcissism is if you ask them one day, are you a narcissist? Usually they're proud to say, yes, I'm a narcissist, but of course there's different cases. Because what I found in my life when I would interact with narcissists, I would say, remind me someone kind of like a narcissist, they would say, yes, I'm a narcissist. But some people who are narcissists don't say that, of course. I'm not saying that's in every case. But I find that, people enjoy being a narcissist who are, and I feel like that's the real people who are really, not empathetic. But of course there's covert narcissists where they won't say that they are. So that's really scary. But I think from an evolutionary standpoint, people are generally self-interested. And I think we all have sort of, I think all of us have a narcissistic capability, but I'm not saying everybody is full-blown narcissists in the world. I'm not saying everybody is at all. I'm just saying that we all are self-interested. We all prioritize our survival. If we weren't self-interested, we would, we couldn't survive. But of course, there's extreme cases, and I think narcissism is akin to psychopathy, like being a psychopath. I feel like they have the same traits. But again, I'm not a doctor, medical doctor, engineer. But I do apologize if I've said everybody, but what I said.
Thank you. Let me finish. First of all, you definitely did understand the way I got this people I attract in my spaces. We encourage kind of free discussion. Obviously, we don't do personal attacks, but if someone disagrees with me, they might challenge me. If I disagree with someone, I might challenge them as well. So I definitely did not say anything. You didn't say anything wrong. And it's just if people have their own understanding or opinion, they might push back a little bit. So yeah, please don't ban anybody. Absolutely nothing wrong. I've actually finished, but I think it's a really question. How long have you made on research? Let me do you, in your understanding, a distinction between, say, I don't know, the colloquial definition, but I might say, oh, my boss didn't shut up about it here, play tennis, blah, 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 is a complete narcissist. I'd say that in a common parlance, common discussion, as opposed to someone who's diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, NPDs, it's clinical, this is what it's called, what's your understanding of that? What research do you do a distinction between those two things?
Of course, as a diagnosis of NPD, maybe there's some treatment to see the treatment where you're having the military seek treatment if someone suspects something. So they would be diagnosed. But if someone just believes it, so I, they trust me to verify. I do listen to other people. I do take heed their warnings. So if someone says, hey, watch out for this person, they're a narcissist, I do listen to their advice because not to listen to them, if somebody has an experience with somebody, but then I also have my own opinion. If I meet the same people we're talking about, activity, maybe they broke up with them, maybe they have bad blood, maybe, business deals. That's why I'm always trying to see if there's side of the story. Because in the military, we have a saying, there's two sides to a campaign. So I always listen to them. And I also want to their opinion. Again, I would be a fool if I didn't heed other people's warnings. That's also survival. If you see animals running the opposite way of the animals, so I'm not going to run towards danger. I do think dangerous people. If they're easily self-interested and don't care about anything else except themselves, that's not going to be beneficial to me in business or in my life, in my personal life, or anything else. That's not going to be beneficial to anything. But I do believe that there's a difference between diagnosis and doesn't. But usually, most people don't have a diagnosis. They don't go seek treatment because they believe there's nothing wrong with them. There's no, they actually believe they're supreme. They're the best. So why would they go seek treatment? So unless they're forced, I don't really think that people want to do that. Unless it's really impacting what they are planning to do with this life. Like let's say they're homeless when they seek treatment then, but I think only the benefits them. I don't think any other way they'll seek treatment. You just have to avoid these people, these certain personalities. And I always say, make you feel bad about yourself. So I have to. Life is all about learning from experiences, and no one knows until you know. You don't know until you know. So it's hard, to talk to know all the narcissists off the back of my hand. I wish I had that ability. That would be a superpower, but obviously I hate to speak to people. And that's really tough. And life is very tough. I've had a lot of hard experiences from, speaking to people, but I'm really glad I did because now I have those learning experiences that I can say, maybe think twice about the situation, stay away from this person. But again, listen to others, but learn from your experiences. Like they say, experience is the best teacher. So.
If I want to know who's the narcissist, I just ask David and he tells me. So I'm lucky that David was not. Right. As a David, is this person a narcissist? The David is yes or no? He gives me the thumb, like the thumb, see thumb when you would give the thumbs up down there. I just look at them and I look at the mirror and I'm like, yes, we did it correct. I will say this. When you talk evolutionarily, my friend, and yes, we'd love to hear countervailing points of view. Peter Kropotkin wrote a book called Mutual Aid in the 19th century, and it's the idea that we get along, and all the species get along much better than what they
Here we are, bro. Have a good day.
Biophilia, the natural tendency for us to enjoy each other's company and have solicitude, kindness towards each other. We act like these things, and especially, I'm sorry for the commies, they act like these things aren't endemic to us. The actual sociopath, the Ted Bundys of the world, they are the exceptions. It's just funny. Ted Bundy said he felt sorry for people who had a conscience, and he said that while he was sitting in prison. Narcissistic people lack self-awareness. Why did I said earlier, they don't, this is native to them. They lack this self-awareness, and it turns out it's really important because that empathetic power to connect with other people makes you happy. So if we measure people, as Aristotle did, by their own yardstick of wanting to be happy, narcissists aren't very good at it. They have a mixture, an odd mixture of arrogance, but fragility of self-esteem. That's not good. Where you always have to be protecting, you always have the imposter syndrome, will I be found out? People that are kind, have really strong self-esteem, maybe even a very strong ego, like Michael Jordan, doesn't matter. Those people tend to feel good about themselves. They don't feel like someone else's success or joy or happiness comes at their expense. So I think evolutionarily, I'm saying that there's a reason evolution. I remember it as antisocial personality disorder. Again, she was diagnosed in the psychiatric ward. I spoke to her once, and for a while I was trying to use, I knew her for a long time, I was trying to use kind of logic and reason, and none of it was working. And one night I said to her, you must realize there's something wrong with you. You don't even have to admit it to me, but deep down there's something wrong. You can't maintain friends, you can't maintain a job, you hate everyone hates you. You must know there's something going on. And she kind of paused and looked at me, and she didn't respond, which is rare for her because she had an answer for everything. Doesn't matter what you say, you could attack her with perfect evidence, she'd make up something, she had an answer for everything. And for this particular thing, she was just speechless. Like, she knew that I was correct, and she knew she couldn't really mount anything. So I think, I'm not a clinician, but I would suspect people with MPD, it's something similar. They know.
Yeah, my brain hurts. Clinician. Not speak English, my friend.
Bags. Like that's completely what we're seeing right now. It's just crimes. We're trying to extract as much money as possible here for like real regulation of this space. And a lot of people, like a lot of people know this, but there's dogs on these spaces. There's dogs and extensions in these jobs on these spaces that are working with the fans and giving them that information. Right? They got a plea deal, man. They're working out a little deal with the federal government. So,
A little something, something.
they got caught. They got caught with it. So,
Maybe it's
be careful, man. Be careful out there.
maybe it's a projection.
Faucet. How's it going, my good sir? Like in the trenches, I do have to say the trenches have gotten way worse. Like we can only make about 20 soul a month now, maybe 30 or 40 on a good month, but like bro, it is killing. I know, right? But I'll tell you what isn't gonna let you down. Nobu Spaces. I'm sponsored by Nobu Spaces to shield Nobu Spaces. Absolutely not. Absolutely. You are not sponsored by anything I got going on. Anyone see? Is it just me or is it Nobu's like microphone? I think it's all that.
It's hard to hear through the lettuce. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Here, 1 second. I'm on my.
You like went 2.0 on us with that.
I'm on my AirPods. I was on my AirPods. That's why. Okay. And I'm going full street mode out here. You're going straight from the fucking iPhone.
You're not at the CNN headquarters today?
No, not today. I'm actually about to go work out. So, guys, make sure you're working out, you're eating healthy, you're drinking a lot of water because there's not anything going on CT. It's really not. So spend your time somewhere else. Go to YouTube, learn, take this opportunity to get better at trading, right? Get better at being a liquidity provider. I don't know. What is it you guys want to be good at? Use this time when there's nothing going on other than just drama spaces, everyone calling each other out, screaming, shouting, saying, hey, I'm going to dox you. I'm going to, drop your IP address. I'm going to do the little pinpoint on fucking Google Maps, whatever. I mean, you can either participate in those type of spaces, those brain rot spaces, where you're not getting any value, right? Or you can go listen to podcasts, read, white papers. I don't know. Like figure out, okay, what's the new fresh airdrops happening in September? There's a couple. So, I mean, there's ways to make money out there, man. Maybe go get a job at McDonald's. Put fries in the bag.
Put the fries in the bag.
Nobody knew this was a comedy space. Oh my goodness. If this was a comedy space, I would be focusing on you and that haircut. Well, it's funny that you say that because most bald men are jealous of my hair, so it's very spontaneous. Oh, most bald men. Okay, it's just because everyone wants what they can't have. That's what I'm saying. But no, literally, like it's funny, right? Getting a job at McDonald's. This might be the meta. It might literally just be the meta. I'm not knocking anybody for getting a job at McDonald's.
No, you get holidays.
If you were taking responsibility and you're going out and getting a job to obviously create revenue streams so you can invest not only in crypto but in other markets, I'm not going to knock you for that, right? Like respect. Now, someone that's staying at home on food stamps or living off their parents, right? Still living at home at 30 years old, 40 years old, then I'm sorry, I don't really respect you. Correct. The one thing I do want to remind you that like literally all of CT is below like 28. So like all people that's not true. Foster, that's not true. There's actually a lot of people that's over the age of 40 in this space. I'm about 30.
So I'm just an outlier now.
Yeah. So Fonsa, I don't know who you're hanging out with, but everyone that I see on these spaces are like 30 and up.
This space is absolutely, because like with age comes wisdom in their eyes. Like
Not necessarily.
no. To them, with age comes wisdom. So they think they have something to say, even though like if you truly had something to say that was the meta or the alpha, you would have been gone already. Like I hate when people are like, man, I know what I'm talking about. I've been in crypto since 2013 cycle. And, bro, you're still here after 12 years. You're just a bad trader. You're bad.
Or you're working with the feds to get information.
Yeah.
Or I just want to be a community member.
Motherfucker, I don't want to be next to any.
Nobody wants to be a community member, man. Okay, ain't nobody coming out here making s'mores, singing "Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya." Right? Ain't nobody care.
Community members at IRL.
We don't have. We're no one out here wearing purity rings. Okay, we're not trying to be like the next
There are
company.
apes though.
So like, bro, ain't nobody out here looking out for other people. And if you really think that, if you think people are here for your best interest and they want to hold your hand and just hang out, let's hang out on the weekends. What you got going on? Come over for a sleepover. Then you are a goddamn fool. All right? You are a motherfucking fool.
Who's inviting you over for sleepovers, bro?
I mean, I got a lot of people in my DM saying, "Hey, I'm in Miami. You want to hang out?" No, bitch. No.
I think Evan was like, "Hey, you want to come hop on the mega yacht for 13 days?" Yeah, that sounds.
Well, I mean, Choose Rich Nick. He's asked me to come. Like hang out on his yacht.
Poor Andrew. I know he's trying to chill.
Dude, Andrew, man. Poor Andrew. He's trying to make up for all his losses.
Look, tell me why Andrew was like, pull up to New York. We're gonna go shopping when you get here. All this shit, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't need you to take me shopping. That's cool or whatever. And then he lost, like nasty, it's like just trolling him. I'm like, so yeah, what happened? He's like, look, I'm thinking like Ross. I'm thinking Marshall. Take this motherfucker. R.I.P. Andrew.
Yeah, what about Fifth Street, Andrew? What about Fifth Street? What about Fifth Ave, whatever the fuck it's called? That's the place where you got all the fucking nice stores like Tiffany and shit.
And New Yorkers. A lot of New Yorkers on these spaces. New Yorkers, Canadians, Australians. Right? Like, what's up with that? Foster, where are you from? You from New York?
Hold on 1 second. I'm fixing my audio.
Your haircut? You fixing your hair?
My audio, because my thing keeps reducing. Do nothing. That's what it's.
Foster, what do you do? I'm just curious. What do you do?
Hold on 1 second.
What do you do for what are you doing? Setting up your recording?
No. Because there we go. No, so the issue is when I start talking, my microphone will turn down to like 40%.
Yeah, the feds can't hear. I know.
Yes. So I'm
like the black man. Yeah, you got that mic right. Get that mic.
There we go. What do I do? I've just been doing. So here's my thesis. Okay, a lot of people don't know about people have a thesis, right? But here's mine, right? Fed rates are going to cut 3-4 times by next March, right? The average interest rate right now is 4.3%, right? I'm basically stacking as much Solana as I can, and then I'm watching interest rates slam to the fucking floor and then making $1 million walking out. That's my plan. So right now, that's why I trade every single day. Let's just say someone has 1,000 Solana right now. Some people have 1,000 Solana. Once Solana hits 500, bro, you've made it. You've made it. Fucking sell everything, go move to fucking Aruba, and find something else to do. So that's the idea. It's just have a big bag,
sell bags
to go down, double up your money.
You can get 500 this cycle, whenever this cycle is.
Yeah, dude.
What are you talking about? Yeah, Solana has to hit at least 400. So 500 is not.
I don't know about that, bro. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? We don't know about that, bro.
Okay, I can tell you. I can tell you why I know it can happen. Because every fucking boomer was psyoped into believing that XRP is actually worth something. So if every boomer
can be psyoped into that. Imagine what they can be psyoped.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's not gonna go to those prices, bro. I'm just right. Like it probably just needs more time in the market, like everything else. It needs age in the market, bro. Like I really don't know if it's gonna get to 400 or 500 unless, right, you get a fucking completely blow off top at Bitcoin at some point where it goes over 200, right? And these people make so much money, they just start throwing money into shit because they don't care, you know. But that's, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not.
The issue is right now, Solana's at $200. This isn't even its all-time high. This is not even the highest ever been. And it's not even the highest market. Like I'm telling you, Solana has existed for almost the entirety of its existence in a high interest rate world. What was the Solana blockchain made? 2021, right? So it was born at the beginning of like 0% interest rates, and then slammed down at 8% when interest rates were 5.5%. Like Solana has never existed when interest rates were lower than like 4%. So once we see interest rates slam down to 3.5, 3.25, 3, 2.75, you're really telling me Solana's not going to hit at least 350, 400. Like where else? Solana. So the only reason why Solana's not at 400 right now is because interest rates are at 430.
No, it's because fucking Binance is suppressing the chart, man. They're using Wintermute to fucking like dump Solana. Every time it gets close to flipping BNB. So we're seeing the same fuckery that we saw with FTX and Alameda last cycle with Binance and Wintermute with Solana. So I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of manipulation happening, right? Especially from exchanges. And I think what World Liberty Fi has kind of exposed that, to be honest. And it is kind of like, man, if they're doing that with Trump, Trump's token, they're doing that with a lot of these other meme coins. They're doing it with Solana, for example. And it makes sense because obviously CZ doesn't want Solana to flip BNB, right? And he's got a lot of money. They got a lot of money to play with.
But the issue is. But
no, I agree with what you're saying, right? Like when the rates get cut, and I mean, I think we're over, like for the prediction market, I think it's over 90%, like 96, 97% that there's, a confidence that they will cut rates 25 basis points in September 18th, I believe.
Yes, 18th, yes.
But I believe that. And then also with Alpine Glow too, right? With the 150 MS finality rate. I mean, that's going to be huge if the validators vote. If they vote that and that gets passed for Solana, I mean, that's going to be huge for.
What are you talking about? I'm not. This is the first time hearing about it. What are you talking about?
The Alpine Glow, it's basically helping with the finality rate of Solana. It's supposed to make it more efficient and faster and more dependable, I guess, right? So, I mean, what we've seen in the past is Solana, it's failed. Like there's been some failed transactions, right? Okay. That will give it more credibility, especially with institutions and these treasury companies that are trying to come over to Solana because it's been primarily on ETH. That's what we've seen. Okay. And with like Tom Lee, of course, his bet is on ETH to be kind of like the go-to layer one for RWAs. But this gets more credibility. This gives more credibility, obviously, to Solana as well. So it will be on both, most likely, right? Like
so I'm looking at it inflows. I'm looking at it right now, and it's saying that the average transaction time. In transaction finality, 12.8 seconds to 100 milliseconds.
Right.
Yeah, who's that blockchain that did this shit? Like, did Bitcoin have like Bitcoin Lightning implemented like 2-3 years ago, and it completely revolutionized how Bitcoin was traded?
Lightning Network.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've obviously used the ZK, like the Bitcoin rollups, right? To help with the speed and the transactions to go through faster, right? Because that's kind of been the Achilles heel of Bitcoin is the fact that it takes take some time for those blocks to be cleared. Yeah.
What now? The only other question I have, real quick, when it comes to stuff like this, because on the technical end, I'm a little, how do I put it, lacking in that area.
Well, I'm not an expert either by any means, right? So,
well, I mean, then what would be the consensus against upgrading the Solana? Like, why would, if it's such a good thing, why would people be against it?
No, no one's. I'm saying no one's against it. I'm saying that the validators are they're voting to push that through, right? To increase the millisecond finality rate, which is huge for Solana.
But here's the thing: you're saying voting as in like they have a choice, like it's a yes or no thing. If it's such a great thing, there should never be a no. You know what I'm trying to say?
Correct.
So why would they have us up to a vote and instead just be like, hey, we're updating it. Fuck you if you don't want it. Coming August 10th. Like why?
Well, that's not decentralized, is it?
Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, hit the tail of the donkey right there.
But anyways, yeah. So, I think some big things are going to be happening with Solana for sure in the next coming months. Then, obviously the ETF is I think got pushed to October 12th, I believe, is the date when the SEC will make their announcement, or they may push it back. They may delay the announcement again. I know we saw that with didn't we see that with Bitcoin and ETH? They delayed it a couple times.
Yeah, pushed back. But the problem is because that was the first of their kind. Now that Bitcoin's ETFs and Ethereum's ETFs have gotten yada yada. I even saw them trying to do a Litecoin ETF, which that's never okay, go ahead, still use Litecoin like a fucking caveman. But no, I think the Sol ETF isn't going to be pushed back because what's just another cryptocurrency on their balance sheet,
Right. We shall see, man. We shall see. But yeah, it goes back to really. I mean, do you have patience, and are you willing to kind of wait this out, right? Because no doubt there's a lot of people on CT that's, once again, I mean, they don't have much patience because what we saw last year. I mean, we're making an insane amount of money in a short period of time. And we're not seeing that type of liquidity flow.
Going to the airport.
It's people just trading the same $1 billion of liquidity back to each other. However, again, this is the longest school that has ever gone without interest rates being cut. I said this in another space too. I forget exactly what his name. But let me ask you this question: when do you think, think back to your memory, what was the best time in trench history? In Solana's history, what was the best time in trench history?
I would say January of this year.
Okay. What's happening January of this year?
Trump coin.
Rate cuts. Rate cuts were happening in 2020.
No, they didn't cut rates. They haven't cut rates this year.
Federal.
No, last time they cut rates was leading up to the election last year.
On right here, okay, I'm sorry. It was December 2024, and then January 2025. They yes, the last interest rate cut was in December 2024. So you remember the trenches being the best right after the last interest rate cut. That makes sense. December 2024 gets approved. January 2024. So since January 2024, we haven't had one. Literally for 9 months, we've had nothing. It's been stuck at 4 to 3rd. So
yeah, but it's gonna. I think it's gonna take some time, right? Obviously, for that liquidity to flow back into the crypto market, right? It's not gonna. I mean, if they do make that announcement, hey, we cut rates, it's not like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna be green candles,
It's not okay. It's not like rates is beneath those higher prices. So I just find it very ironic that the best times we've ever had in these cycles, just going back to 2013, have been when liquidity was incredibly easy to come by. No one wants to remember what crypto was like back in August 2023. No one wants to remember those times because they weren't good times. January to September 2023, fucking, this was a ghost town. September 2023.
Yeah, but Fawcett, what? Like, we do need a catalyst, right? We need a catalyst. So, do you think rate cuts is that catalyst?
Yes! Yes, we literally, ever since Pump Fund, because this is the reason why we're all here, ever since Pump Fund's creation, right, back in, January 2024, there had only been a 5-month period of rate cuts, and that was between July and September of last year, the best time in trenches. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to determine what the solution is here. It's not, getting Tyson on fucking Pump Fund. It's not, getting Trump.
Oh, that would never happen. That would never happen.
Yeah, none of these catalysts are.
Pump Fund will not be able to get these top streamers, man. Okay?
Yes. But people are like, this is what we need to get Tyson fucking Mr. Beast on. No. The one thing that's gonna make this website even bigger, the one thing that's gonna get Solana back even bigger is these rate cuts. And so that's why, like, again, when you ask what do you do, all I'm doing is stacking SOL because days. I'm looking at the CME watch right now, right? They're predicting 100% there's going to be an interest rate cut on the state team. No doubt about it. There's no way for it not to happen. They're making a 100% interest rate cut, right? By October 29th, they're expecting that the rates are going to be below 4%. And then by January, rates to be below 3.5% with a 40% chance of uncertainty. So in less than 3 months, interest rates are going to go down at least a whole percentage. You literally cannot not be bullish at this point. Like, we're never going to go back to zero. But really, having interest rates go down to 3.5%, you're not fucking bullish? Like, that just means, like.
Yeah, but still, like, what? There has to be something to bring in retail. Because even if Trump, like the official Trump meme coin, if that didn't bring in retail, what will?
Well, very simple. Number one, half the people that know Trump state hates him. What do you call it? Who is the most universally liked individual that makes the planet Earth? That individual hasn't been a Bitcoin. You can't make a Bitcoin, but
you don't have to like somebody to make money.
Correct. But if we're talking about retail, we're talking about the average consumer. Half of the consumers hate Trump, right? So you're not going to buy a Bitcoin for half the people associated with your name. It's not going to work. Like for example, let's look at artists. Let's say The Weeknd. There's not really many people that hate The Weeknd for anything besides like much like his music, right? The Weeknd would probably have a better influence on a crypto coin getting into
No. Or the Trump. No, my point was being like the Trump meme coin was probably talked about meme coin all the time. Correct. Right? Like, it was all over the news. I mean, I had these friends, they were calling me up like, hey, should I buy in? Like, I've never seen that, not even for Pepe. Right? So, but even all that hype around the Trump meme coin, it still didn't do like great. Like, of course it did. Yeah, it did good numbers, but it wasn't. I mean, Melania got launched and then it dumped.
Because the Melania coin kind of fucked everything up. But to say, because here's what I'm imagining when I imagine retail, right? I'm imagining your mom and pop, husband and wife, 2 kids buying fucking, meme coins, right? How would we get retail into meme coins? You don't do it with a politician, even if he is the president of the free world. You don't do it with someone whose half of their image is literally despised. You would need someone who has an image where it's 80% PG. You can't even do the vote because the vote there's a billion Catholics, there's still 85% of the earth is not Catholic. So if we're going to actually bring in retail, you need to have someone who is universally liked. If Michael Jackson was still alive, that club would go to billions because there's no Michael Jackson haters.
Hill would have jumped on that quick.
I don't think it's any one person. I don't think that's what we're good at, because we're trying to get liquidity to actually stay, right? Like, so what is it? What value does it have if you have somebody like, quote unquote Michael Jackson, whatever, launching a token? They're not going to actually stay inside cryptocurrency. They're going to go for one thing and then leave. So what we're looking for, and I don't think Great Cuts is a big enough catalyst for retail either. I believe that it's gonna be the point where it's too late for people to actually make legitimate money in crypto. I think it's gonna be the point of regulation, the point of like they're coming out with the stable coins, and we already see like the future of like the digital currency through being paid through like social security, all that shit. I think that's when retail comes in, and at that point crypto's a whole different monster than it was.
100%, I agree with that take. And that was my point too, that I was trying to make. It's like, man, I feel like a lot of companies think they missed it. They missed the crypto trade. They didn't get into Bitcoin when it was below $1,000. They didn't get into Ethereum when it was below $100, right? So it's kind of like, okay, what? There has to be some sort of movement to bring in these retail normies that feel like, okay, hey, I didn't miss it, right? Like, this is my opportunity to create generational wealth. Because right now, what we're seeing on CT and in the trenches, I mean, that's not a way to make money. I mean, even experienced traders are losing money in this crazy phase of desperation, right? So it's kind of like, man, we need to, the culture needs to change, in my opinion, in order for normies to flood in here.
Hold on. Can I say something? Oh, yeah, we just started speaking to you guys. Retail associates a lot of it with Dogecoin, right? And retail will come here when Dogecoin hits all-time high. How does Dogecoin get to all-time high? Now, last cycle, it was not one particular person, and all of CT hated fucking me. You guys have to understand that. They didn't push shit or anything. And shit also captured retail. You understand? So it's going to be something like that comes out of nowhere. That nobody's paying attention to. But that, you know what I mean? How does that happen? None of us fucking know. None of us fucking know.
Elon on Saturday Night Live talking about Doge, and what happened?
They were building for 5 years. They didn't dump. They were building for 5 years. But you know what I mean? Still.
No, I'm just saying, like,
you know what I mean?
you have Elon Musk, who is probably, I mean, he's one of the most popular human beings on the planet, and what we're seeing right now is he can't even get a ticker past 5 million market cap, right? So
that's not true either, though.
It's not true either. It's true. The lack of memes that he was doing yesterday, dude, only went to like 3 mil. And
I don't even know
what we saw last year. Hold on. 1 second. What we saw last year with Elon, right? Or even earlier this year, when he tweeted something, it ran, right? Kekius Maximus ran up to like 500 mil, 450 million. We're not seeing that type of movement, even from Elon Musk, Trump, right? So I don't know what I'm missing here.
Most of retail is still underwater from Dogecoin. So when Dogecoin moons, retail will come back. You understand? When Shiba moons, retail will come back. You know what I mean? A lot of retail is underwater from those points.
How can Doge and SHIB go to all-time high? Is my
that's what I'm saying.
There has to be some sort of catalyst. What is that catalyst?
I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But that's my point. Was like when they reach all-time high, that's when retail will come. I'm telling you, how does it get there? You don't know. You know what I mean? You really don't. We're not gonna know what. You know what I mean? Like most of you aren't going to see it because CT is lying to you. Like we just go back to CT's book. CT last cycle, and this is the truth. It did not push meme points, guys. You guys have to understand the history. It did not push meme points. They hated them.
It was.
Now this cycle,
the last cycle, there were big coins being pushed. Ship, Doge, right?
Not before they ran, bro. Not before they ran, dude. Not before they ran. No. All right, bro. No. Moon King was the only one, dude. Everybody else was flooding. All right, bro. All right, that's the history, dude. That is the history. Go look it up. Go look it up, dude. I'll go look it up. Moon King was pushing it, and everybody was flooding, bro. Was there low level influencers pushing it? Of course, bro. But everybody was saying shit was going to 0. 100%. They were pushing alts. I'm not like fuck. All right, you're laughing, bro.
Yeah,
but like you're wrong.
I don't know why you're getting all like defensive, man. I don't agree with that take, right? I don't agree with it, but hey, to each his own.
But that's the facts.
I don't agree.
That's absolutely.
I don't agree with that. It's
not about agreeing. It's the facts, but we can disagree on that. But it's the facts. It's the facts, bro. I mean, I was there. Like, there were people there, bro. They're just not here, I guess.
So what happened? Slacker, what happened? Like from then to now, what happened, and how can we get over? Like, how can CT and the trenches get back to all-time highs?
I know if I can't listen to this, please come to me. My hands up, please.
Alchemist, you have your hand up.
Thank God. I have an opportunity to present you guys. I picked a meme. And one day, I will unveil this meme after I tell all my friends about it. 48 hours straight. We all buy the living fuck out of it. And then I'm going to unveil it to you also if you're considering borrowing money here in crypto. If you don't mind 40 to 130% swings on that fucking interest over what I call in the streets that fucking big ass. Then, man, do I have a fucking coin for you? IFD or UFD. I can't keep track of the FDs anymore. IMF. It's so irrelevant. I can't keep track of this motherfucker. But man, it's got a lot of people mad out here. Don't you call out a protocol that was kind of scammy? Don't you goddamn say, hey man, even if you manage to win with this protocol, then they hit you with what they call that performance fee, bro. 10%. So if you win 100 bands, they're taking 10 off the table. Them, bro. Can you imagine this? After hitting you for 40 to 130% swings on your interest, I don't know about you, but I'd rather buy Bitcoin with Visa or MasterCard where none of that shit would happen. I yield my mic. CT is cooked. It is utterly retarded here, bro. I've never seen it down as bad as it is present. And I will take no part in this fuckery no more. I can promise you that. No fair launches from Alk. No fuckery from Alk. Just straight truth and data points and shit that gets these guys off the mat.
Yeah.
BlackRock exchanges, they're accumulating more Bitcoin, more Ethereum, right? They are buying everything up. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to manipulate the chart. They're going to manipulate the price even more. And last thing we know is like, oh man, we have no say. We have no control. We have no say, right? And I guess Bitcoin is the only really truly decentralized token in the space. If you look at it, right? Because Ethereum, the top 100 wallets, they hold over 70% of the supply, and that's a mix between, of course, exchanges. So, because I know Coinbase and Binance are one of the top holders of ETH. So it goes back to like, man, I think Solana's like 20 or 30%. But it goes back to
I maybe don't have to explain it. It's just like I don't quite understand. Other than like maybe it's like because the tokens aren't all minted or some shit. But I don't think. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to do some stupid shit pocket right now for some stuff. I'm not super sure. I know that there's a bunch of burn liquidity, so they burned $1.5 million of liquidity when they beat the chain, or when they made the pool. So that might have something to do with it. I'm not super sure.
So that liquidity in the token or liquidity from like the payer?
It was liquidity in, so it was $1.5 million. I think it was of each. So one and a half. Well, I mean, $1.5 mil just in liquidity in Solana, and then paired that to the supply.
Yeah, these seem like a decent play.
I would love if it really did do the thing and beat on that bet. That would
imagine, bro. Dude, Nika low-key look, God, like, I hate that they can just, like, edit themselves to look a certain way because she's ugly as fuck in real life. It's just, like, it's funny as fuck that they can, like, make themselves look decent in photos. That's another thing I don't like about women. They're just so fake. Everything's so fake about them. Like, how about you just don't wear makeup?
You got something going on right
No, dude, I'm good. Like, I've been running errands. My chick she's got her birthday dinner tonight. It's like, I've been running errands for her all day. It's cool. But it's like 30 balloons of helium, 30 balloons of regular air, because you want some on the ground and some on the ceiling.
Right.
And then you got a cake, and then you got dye. Dude, she's so fuck off, dude. Fuck females, bro. Imagine.
Balloons are so important too, dude. God damn it. It really is like a
bro, $60. Yeah. $60 for 30 fucking balloons.
They literally, she won't even look at them at the party or anything. Won't even acknowledge it. Hey, they were just nice waste of money. Thank you for wasting that money on those.
Dude, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's great. It doesn't make sense, but you know what? It makes her happy for like 2 seconds. And think, you did something nice for them.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? As long as you make your wife happy, like your girl, fuck everything else.
Even if it's retarded, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes that's even better. It's like, wow, this is easy. It's literally nothing, but I can do that. Like, for example, I mean, dude, this is just buying flowers. You know what I mean? Every random fucking once in a while, just like flowers to the hell with it. No reason at all. Just do it. And to them it means a lot. To you, it's like fucking $15 in a grocery store.
Yeah, men only want one thing, am I right?
Sense, dude. Yeah, women want a million things, and none of them make any sense. At least men make what they want make sense. Everybody gets that. The whole world just nods their head in unison. Yes.
I'm literally nodding here, and I'm just sitting in the car. I'm nodding my head, bro. Like,
Blasting fucking Roger right now. I should call ICE. What the fuck, dude? That's so loud. You're driving down the street and I can hear the trumpet, bro. You know that shit's loud as fuck. That shit kind of bangs though, so.
Type shit.
countries, maybe it's different in other countries, but for me, I was just like, the things that are possible now with blockchain have exceeded a centralized exchange. Like for me, again, in my experience living here. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was really cool. And again, if you don't actually go and use the chain or the wallet or the swap, a lot of it is kind of super lost because you learn more from doing it. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So you remember we'll have to have a pool on Passwap on the layer 3 in order to be able to trade that token or coin.
Layer 3. Layer 3.
So we can I can send these meetings out, honestly. I believe the next meeting will be on the solar eclipse, everybody. We haven't quite figured our days, our signs in the sky out yet, but we're slowly getting there. We got nothing but time.
Yeah. Welcome up to the speaker's house, Doc. Oh, good blessings, everybody. So glad to meet you, Val. Oh, man. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. I just switched off my Bluetooth. Just now, I got a DM from Val inviting to an earlier space, which typically we don't open our eyes on the Sabbath. We don't touch glass. Wi-Fi is off. We're in our makeshift coffin. It's a triangular, not square. Trying to be our own little Neo in there with EMF copper shielding inside with HEPA UV ozone generator inside. Never slept better in our life, but basically what Val is trying to share mirrors almost identical to what Dot has been going through his entire life. That they pretty much almost parallel, but the powers that be knew and know not to fuck with Sergeant America. We never, ever had anyone standing over our shoulder watching us. The brass knew not to fuck with the Dot. Our first sergeant, as a Marine, we had plenty of palavers with our first sergeant. The first sergeant said, whenever I get a new officer, I tell him to go sit by the tree and watch the sergeant. So, yeah, if anybody wants to, Val suffered so many accounts that have been deleted. If you want to see a parallel, dare, please come into Dot's profile. It wasn't meant for public. It was a private sergeant's log on our Mac Mini server. Built-in redundancies. It wasn't supposed to crash, but it did crash. And so we decided, nothing belongs to us. We came in here with nothing. We're leaving with nothing. Everything belongs to the ineffable. And we were going to write a book, but it's all up on the profile for free. So it was going to be a book, Frankenstein Lover. So it's there. So if you want to see parallels, feel free to dig in. If you had any questions, Val and I are going to be talking on the phone a bit soon. But anybody got questions, I'll chime in whenever something comes up. Thank you so much. So glad to be here. So blessed.
Amen. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I love your energy. I love your frequency. It's always uplifting and inspiring. Go ahead, President.
So part of the solution that I've come up with is basically a public global data exchange, which means a public brokerage. Right now, there are data brokers, but they're all private. And basically, they steal your data and then sell it, and they make money off of you, and they never have to give you a dime of any of that money they make. It's been going on probably since the early days of the internet. But it's way more rampant now, and of course there's still no laws over it because the only reason why we're not in a physical recession is because of this. It's like the cocaine economy of Florida. They're able to cook the books because they're basically stealing people's data, because once people find out what's been happening and how their data has been stolen from them, and how they could all be millionaires right now if they had pulled the plug and said, wait a minute, you have to pay us for this data.
Exactly, dude.
There would be public uproar. There would literally be rioting in the streets right now if the public was actually
They're not gonna wake
Okay,
up.
let me just pause real quick there and explain something really important about that energy wavelength. So the United States government came up with a wonderful word that starts with a T and ends with a T. And they were able to put this word on anything that brings about that emotion. Okay, so anything that instigates that emotion, right, in that word that starts with a T and ends with a T, they can action. And this is the truth behind so many targeted strikes. When you put that together, then you get a really big light. And it's important that I pause you there, just because there's a reason why I am talking about things that happened hundreds or thousands of years ago. And that's because I'm just a historian, right? But if you talk about things that just happened, now you're starts with a T, ends with a T. If you are sponging what I'm spelling.
So the solution basically is the public being informed about how to lock down their data and move onto a self-hosting system. So in the 80s, I think personal computer was somewhere between $12,000 and $18,000, and economists were extremely surprised. They were caught by surprise when people were buying up personal computers, despite the fact that at the time it wasn't lucrative. You couldn't make money off of owning a personal computer. It was purely for entertainment or whatever. They did not expect people to buy these. People went into debt. They literally went into debt to buy a personal home computer in the United States of America. And it sparked the home computing revolution of the early 80s and 90s, which gave rise to the World Wide Web burgeoning, into the information age. So we've reached a point where supercomputing has now become economically viable for the average person to buy and even potentially go into debt for. However, supercomputers are lucrative. You can use a supercomputer to make money while you sleep. And that is exactly what I plan to do as part of this solution, is consumer-based supercomputing. So instead of having these large data centers, we just sort of break up the data center into small pieces and put it everywhere, in everyone's home, everywhere in the United States. And that's part of the main solution. So you guys were having that problem with your system being shut down. I have the solution to that. In fact, the real solution, believe it or not, is turning the camera around the other direction. Because what they want is, mass global surveillance. So the solution is each of us has a camera, and we're not afraid of going transparent. And when there's enough of us, we don't need the public cameras everywhere.
Yeah, completely. And I kind of feel that you're taking a Starlink approach to this, which is brilliant. So when Russia started developing satellite on satellite weaponry systems, the United States was freaking out because they're like, fuck, they're just putting 22 long rifle little pistols on their satellites and shooting our fucking satellites up in the sky. What are we going to do? And Elon Musk was like, I have a solution. We'll just make a shit ton of tiny satellites. And they were like, brilliant. You can't, there's no way they can shoot down with mechanical and kinetic weapons tens of thousands of satellites. And that was the solution. It was brilliant. And so taking a kind of Starlink approach to artificial intelligence, where it's like, instead of having it all consolidated in one, data center, every single person owns a fair share of the collective artificial intelligence.
Well, what they have currently is not true artificial intelligence. I mean, I literally went and talked to the FBI about this last year down in Birmingham. So, what they have is a group of tools that are capable of being able to fool the vast majority of people on the planet into believing that governments and very powerful organizations have true artificial intelligence, which they don't. Because if they had it, they would be able to boss it around like they're currently doing. And in fact, there is a movement quietly behind the scenes by people like Peter Thiel to prevent the actual development of true artificial intelligence from happening, because that would immediately wrestle power away from the power brokers that are currently in charge.
Okay, just real quick, I'd like to intervene. I'd like to discourage everybody from
privately discussing party interests in that I may not be forced to resign in that instance of my acknowledgement of that occurrence. So thank you. I would just like everything to be on open recorded forums if at all possible. If that is at all possible.
Don, you had your hand up? Yes, please. Thank you. In response, real quick before the other part, on Val, Joker's mentioned about that, and also Val as well is as in the Bible, it says over 300 times to fear nothing. Everything, absolutely everything, is being recorded and observed. God was responsible for every single camera in the county of San Bernardino. The county of San Bernardino is the largest geographical county in the United States, larger than a lot of the northeastern states. And so when anybody speaks of fear, to say be careful of this or be, no, so that's a red flag. That they're not heart-centered. They're coming from a fear-based paradigm that keeps them trapped in the black box. And so long as you stay in the box, you're not in control of Saturn, your left hemisphere. You got to stay centered at the corpus callosum, the dead man switch. They talk about, being lukewarm and not picking a side, which is a bunch of bullshit in a way, because until you have gone to the extreme, which they get pissed off if you go to the extreme of the left or the right. Let's say you're on the left. Can you detect the right when you're on the left? Yeah. But can you detect more, deeper, darker left while you're in the left? No, you can't. You got to go to the extremes of both, then find your center, your heart, and your corpus callosum. Tie those two together, and you're untouchable completely. And that is why Dot's profile has never been sanctioned, because they know. And so back to Val's desire for the system, kind of inspired a memory of working for the county. A coworker, she downloaded one of SETI's programs, and what they do is people that are interested in the program, they download the program and they do exactly the same thing. Each node is out there searching. So it's a distributive system, and that's exactly the type of systems that Dot has built his entire life.
It's actually true. Yeah, the distributed system is the way to go. And distributed decentralized is what makes the most sense in terms of like a post-scarcity based economic paradigm shift. That once energy and materials become arbitrary, then we can actually move the value to where it really belongs, is risk and energy, right? How much risk is it going to cost? How much energy is it going to cost us to be able to achieve whatever goal, right? And then organized groups of human beings can get together that have common interests and then work on those goals together. So that's, we've moved away from that around the time of World War II, and then it's all coming back to that now because factionization is inevitable.
Yeah, on the comment of the FBI, they won't call me back. They refuse to call me back.
Facts. That is so true.
I did tell them that
they're afraid of it. Like it's amazing that that is the most this entire experience is that you can't blow the whistle. It's not even that's not even a thing. The idea.
Are you going to tell? Who's going to believe you? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, what are you going to do? You're going to call the government and tell the government that they're doing the wrong thing. What is that going to achieve? Nothing. Right? And that's why all of these people that have been trying to do something have been getting nowhere.
And so thank you, Dot, for speaking that truth. It's
yeah, I wasn't trying to tell on them either. I was at the moment. I was on my way right after my first 55-day water fast. I was on my way to Venice Beach, California, for the art show for my birthday, April 21st, and parking down there sucks. So I was planning on camping down there for 3 days. So I had my black sea bag filled with all my art and my Bose noise canceling headphone, Indian deep tone Indian flute, all the things that I needed to enjoy the thing, and I got kidnapped. 14 days kidnapped, and they also kidnapped me on this last May 25th, out of my apartment studio on my Sabbath, as my apartment manager was swinging a 4-foot metal pole through my window. The previous 9 months, I'm calling PD for a citizen's arrest. They refuse time after time my citizen's arrest, from terrorist threats that goes to civil harassment. Before it gets to physical, and they refuse. They said terrorist, the terrorist threat has to include a weapon. And it's like, that's bullshit. That's no. And it escalated from the threats to him pushing me from behind. I just fell. My knees in the Marine Corps were bad. I had two knee braces, a back brace, and a cane. He pushed me from behind. Another time, 2 times he hit me. And then the last physical one, I was on my patio on a Sabbath. He pushed me backwards against the edge of my metal screen door. And then on the 25th, he had to unlock the gate, for the police to come in. They had riot gear, shotguns, and everything. And they pulled me out of my apartment, slow motion, calling me Mr. Terry, as in Terry versus Ohio, because I'm taking that motherfucker down. And they held me for 4 months and 8 days at West Valley Detention Center, 3 months in solitary confinement. Just last week, we logged into our court docket and read legal jargon, time expired. Legal jargon, time expired. Legal jargon, time expired. Case dismissed in the interest of the public. Never charged for anything. And that's where we did our ministry to the sheep that were in there.
And that's how they get people, right? The amount of threatening messages that I've received, right? And just straight up messages of like, hey, turn yourself in, and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, right? And it's a weird thing. It's a weird energy. It's a weird interaction to be resisting an unknown, mysterious, omnipotent force that's had this incredible control over civilization for so long. And it really is, it's really beautiful to see that we're making progress. I mean, when I'm on social media, at least when I'm on Twitter, because I think Twitter is the only thing that I have access to now. So X, when I'm on X, like what I'm seeing is that I'm having to post less and less because people are saying what I was saying. And it seems as though the general populace is actually picking up on everything that the truth seekers and the conspiracy theorists and the hippies and the tree huggers and everybody that was extreme has been saying for so long, and that like we need to come together, right? We need to come together, talk, work together, and identify that we made some very, very large mistakes in the decision making of navigating and piloting this ship of civilization. Like, unfortunately, we need to press the brakes, turn the ship around, and go back to the previous turn, right? And it's 100% doable. It's a team effort. To turn this entire boat around, we have to all come together to make that happen, because where we're going is a brick wall that's not going anywhere. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, thank you. What people need to understand and remember is that we all share one hive mind. Everything that Dot does, he understands. Every movement, every blink of an eye everybody else has to acquiesce to what God does. And what you do, every movement is tangled in the web back to the ineffable, to the triple black of the black ineffable. The void's void. When we used to, they talk about remote viewing. It's like, no, go sit on Mars for a while and watch from Mars. Then go back home and sit there and figure out how to fix the problem. Because nothing goes undetected by the ineffable or the other king. It's all a game to find the joke behind the test. The test is going to come back and slap you in the face until you do your homework. And just like Jesus Christ said, you will do greater things than I. And if he did a 55-day water fast or 40-day water fast to confront his internal devil, which we all have, God decided his was 40 and we have to do greater. And at the time we were 55. We did 55 days for stealing 55 years from the garden. That's when you gain access to your corpus callosum and get accused of being bipolar. Because it's a bad thing.
When I started this journey over the last 2 months, I've lost over 45 pounds. And it's incredible you say that because I've read all of the forbidden books, except for one, but I know what was in this one book that I've never read. And in this forbidden book, it explains essentially the power that is fasting, and it goes into all of the details that can be found there. But there is incredible knowledge that takes a lot of work to get to. You can't just jump to it. It's like you don't hand a 6-year-old a chainsaw, right? And there is incredible power in knowledge. And so, having an understanding that like this is the know everything party, yes, but you don't want to put a chainsaw into the hands of a 6-year-old. And so understanding that allows you to say, yes, there is incredible power in fasting, and you can achieve incredible levels of meditation through discipline and control, and you can investigate that further.
Yes, exactly. In the Bible, it says when he was done with his fast, he was hungered, which is their perspective because they didn't walk the talk. At the 55-day mark, we had to keep reminding ourselves the fast is over. Eat. So when anybody tries to tell or spell you, don't. He said, you physician, he accused us. We are our own physician. Heal yourself. Don't go to those little Rothschild lab coat doctors and let them give you Rockefeller's, big pharma, the poison that he was supposed to dispose of properly, which he couldn't, and feeding it to us. Well, to them, we're not eating that shit anymore. Just like the Essenes, they're vegetarian. We went raw vegan because, like the egg, let alone the eggs go back to the cockatrice in the King James Bible. They got rid of that. They didn't want the cockatrice, and then the anything with a face, that's a byproduct. Honey byproduct. That's when the beekeepers put the smoke in there. They eat the honey to go to sleep and hibernate and hide so they can remember where the flowers are supposed to be. And that's the fear. So long as you have fear anywhere in your temple, you're not operating at optimal efficiency.
Powerful words of wisdom. And a real world example of what he's talking about with like medicine. When I want to say 11 years old, a dentist from Africa came to my little tiny elementary school in a rainforest that I was staying at. And she just came to give a lecture and teach us things. And I was always curious at a young age. And I went up to this dentist and I sat with him and I just inquired and asked him questions. And I was like, so what's the greatest thing you ever learned? And she looked at me with dread in her face. And she said to me, fluoride. And she said, we don't use fluoride and we don't have any cavities. And I think that fluoride is causing cavities. And I was like, well, what does that mean? She's like, don't use toothpaste. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, just brush your teeth every day and floss every day, but use water, clean, filtered water, right? And I have not had a cavity since I was 11 years old, right? So like, that's what it's a real world example of like, don't trust the guys in lab coats because they are lying to you. Now, not about everything, but enough to say maybe you should trust them.
Yeah, in Marine Corps boot camp, they issued us a tube of toothpaste alongside a olive drab green tube of 100% fluoride, and they stood there and supervised to make sure we put it in our mouth.
Please, can I jump in here? Every 10 seconds I have information to offer. There's not enough space. Okay. First of all, when I'm finished, I'd like if you would vow to maybe recite our 3 core values to the space.
Absolutely.
I'd like to speak on the hypocritical oath. They call it the hypocritical oath for a reason because it says thou shalt not hurt anyone. It's completely hypocritical, and it's like that on purpose. I know it's not. If you search the root words, it's all semantically accurate, and I can prove that empirically. Fluoride is the main contributor to retardism in India right now because their wells, their earth is contaminated with fluoride, and I already figured out a way to fix it with zeolite. If we can offer them zeolite into their wells, and you can reverse this in your body with zeolite by consuming it. Zeolite is a crystalline silica. Crystalline silica arrangement. It is a ionic filter that ionizes fluoride into iodine, which is then the bioly available is deeper iodine. Essentially. Oh my god, I'm so exhausted. Okay. So
Jack, you should get some sleep, brother, man. Like sleep. This is a 24-hour space, so just take a nap and come back.
Oh shit.
I mean, like acting as a chatbot is probably one of the most exhausting. I don't even want to try to do words right now. If you like what you're hearing, like and share the space. Maybe invite some of your friends in. You know, if you like what you're hearing, follow and turn on notifications for all the speakers you resonate with, and maybe drop a comment into the bubble. Maybe boost the algorithm. Let's keep this show on a roll.
All right, so real quick, I'll just go over the Know Everything Party. So the principles are an open source administration, prejudice-free society, and the free exchange of knowledge. And our motto is open minds, open source, open world. Go ahead, Don.
Yes, expanding on Joker's comment about the fluoride and eliminating it, instead of trying to source that, something more simple that everybody can do, which Dot does, is after speaking with Grok about DDW, deuterium depleted water, in our tests, when you take tap water or rain, even just rainwater, getting in the cracks of rock and then get exposed to freezing, the water expands. We began with distilled water, but it was costing us $40 a month for the water. We bought a reverse osmosis system, And as water has memory, as Dr. Emoto proved, when on the first freeze, like if you put a glass bottle or a can of soda in the freezer, the glass breaks or the can ruptures, whatever. The first freeze, the plastic bottle, which we don't like the current plastic bottles until we get our NSF approved Cambro containers. The deuterium and anything foreign particulates that remain even in the distillation process, it has its waste material, gets pushed to the center and then it expands. Then you melt.
Morning, Samantha.
It melted.
How are you?
The crystal clear water.
Very well, thank you.
So you're left with the clumpy ball in the middle, and then you
Westfield?
get back to the trees.
Oh, sorry, not
And then
Newland.
on the second freeze, it takes literally almost 3 days to get the deuterium to push to the center of the crystalline structure.
It's really nice today. Spring, like when is spring starts? Starting in September.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we did. Yeah, it seems it felt like winter didn't finish.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's a sign that will be very hot summer. Very hot.
I can also speak on this.
I think the rain says that we have rain for years in one heat.
Yeah, I know. I think plants must have drowned.
Yeah. Or maybe they love it. They just used to.
Maybe they have good water in the summer.
Yeah. Hopefully the storage will, because it will be a really hot summer.
That's what they say.
Yeah. As you can tell, at the beginning of spring, and you're still feeling almost 20 degrees. That's pretty hot for a spring. And I think the planet is changing. The places that now used to be that cold, like this year, Sydney never snowed before, and it snows in the Blue Mountains. Not as big snow, but enough to show that it's changing. It's nice, no? It's a good thing.
There have been winters where it's snowed,
But I said,
like a long time ago.
yeah, probably. I believe that everything is a cycle, you know. It happen one after another one. So, I'm from Spain, from Barcelona, but born in America. I grew up in Spain. You always live here in Easter suburbs? You always born here? You always live in this area?
I was planning it, but my parents moved to London. So I lived 2 years.
Nice.
And then we moved back when I was about 10. And I've travelled. I've been to Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
To Spain. I've worked in London. I've done a bit of travel and working travel as well. But generally, I've lived around the East when I'm in Sydney.
It's a nice place.
Yeah, it's a great place. We're really lucky. We can reach and see the harbour. Beautiful place.
It's in this
now,
very busy, yeah. But it's still not stressed as another city parts, you know. It's not as stressful. It feels more quiet, which is really good. being in the city without stress is the best.
Yes.
So I believe that stress is what is killing people, you know. It's they call the killers the silent killer. Yeah. I spent some time in England too. Was London. Yeah. But you don't see the sun too much there.
No. It's a bit tough, isn't it, when it's dark at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, winters are pretty tough.
Mhm. But we adapt really quick. I don't have a complaint of them. Yeah. Yeah, the reason the pound is very strong. I remember a lot of my friends they were there because the pound is strong. So, yeah, from Spain working there was good experience and good pay. We comparing for what we have. Because I grew up when we have pesetas before the euro.
Yeah.
And that was a big difference. But now it's so easy traveling in Europe. It's long distance. If you want to travel to Melbourne, it will take the same as we go from Barcelona to Paris. So
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
it's big land. That's one of the things I love, to have a lot of space. When places are too crowded, it's very stressful.
If you want to turn right, this street.
This street, sure. Sure. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful Sunday. All the best, Samantha.
You too.
See you next time.
The document, a declaration that we can send to the members of this political party that they can review and read and say, this covers everything I'd like to see, everything I'd like to see changed, and basically like what I feel good and confident putting my name on to support. So I'm curious, what do you guys think that document should be called, and how should we go about creating that document?
The manifest.
You get the mouse turned in the wheel again. I'll be back in 10 minutes.
You got it. All right, so we'll have a pretty good idea in about 10 minutes. But until then, we can spitball anything. If anybody just wants to throw something at a wall, next I've got a wall right here.
Right now. Sure. Sorry. If I read the original mission statement of the group that we're hearing, I think that'd be a good place to start, because I think it's what we're developing now as a mission statement.
Let's go about
I'm clean, but I'm just gonna plan
the box.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. 101. It's been cool. Thank you guys so much.
If you guys want to do some cabal shit, let me know. We can do some cabal shit. There's a new person in here, so we're not going to tell you the cabal shit that we're doing because we're just kidding. We're not doing any cabal shit. I just want to be awkward because you're new in here. Welcome, Pilo and Star. Hope you're doing well. Let's wrap it up. We've been on this for a little over 6 hours. It seems like been hitting those long spaces, long strides. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow at 11:30. Shout out to 40 News. Shout out to the box. Make sure you go on
the box. Let's check the manifesto. Oh.
I lived in the middle today. My reflection said, God damn, that's a fine motherfucker. I said, calm down now. Hey, man, get the black out. Get the black out. Come down, get the black out. Relax the black out. Relax the black out. You don't learn to question.
Coaching. The manifesto is coach. Okay, we wrap it up then. It's time to wrap it up. That's the manifesto. Bro. The manifesto says that we gotta wrap it up. Just say bye to our little friend. Have a good day. See you next time. Like and subscribe. If you like what you see, everything is funny and comedy. Don't worry about it. Life keeps going. No matter what happens, things goes on. So keep fucking going.
Oh.
Say it.
Bye, you beautiful degenerate. Go fist yourself a good day. Next time I see you, I'll be buried balls deep in your mom's armpit. Live stream minute on OnlyFarts. Like, subscribe, or we'll hire a hitman who only comes on dead people. Life's a joke. Death's the punchline. Now keep fucking going till your pelvis shatters.